Hello and welcome to another edition of Florida Sportsman Action Spotter Podcast. I'm Captain Rick Riles. Hey, we're going to have a lot of fun. Here's what we're about to do. We're going to take a quick trip over to Nosara, Costa Rica, because I have to get my billfish fixed and find out what's going on in Paradise. I tell you, if you're looking for a great billfish destination, I highly recommend Nosara, Costa Rica. Then we're going to start our way around Florida. We'll start up in the northeast corner. That's where we've got David Voorhees sitting on ready. He's going to tell us everything that's gone on inshore this week. We'll work our way down the east coast, up the west coast, and out the Panhandle. Hey, you know what? We've got experts in every area, every region. We've got the top charter fishermen there, and I've got a question for them tonight. I want to know what their greatest accomplishment on a rod and reel is. We've all been able to put our clients on some great fish, and I know I'm thankful for each and every one, and they are too. But I want to know whether it was back in their boyhood or whether it was recently, what's their greatest accomplishment fighting a fish? All right, we're going to get it rolling with a quick trip to Costa Rica to check in with Craig Sutton. Now, remember, tonight's podcast and every podcast is brought to you by Yamaha. Reliability starts here. By Shimano, bringing people and nature together. By Tournament Master Chum, the best chum on earth. By Nosara, Paradise Rentals. And by DOA Lures, the unfair advantage. And we can't forget about Young Boats. You want the finest in flats, bay, and offshore hybrids? You need to check out youngboats.com. All right, it's time to head to Costa Rica. Let's find out what Mr. Craig Sutton is up to. Okay, we're going to start out tonight's journey in Paradise. I'm telling you, folks, if you're looking for a great billfish destination and a great nature destination, this place, Nosara, is sitting on the bank of on the edge of a nature preserve. You want to see some crazy-looking animals and listen to some wild monkeys, you want to go to Nosara. Let's check in with our purveyor of fishing over there, Mr. Craig Sutton. Craig, are you with us?
I'm good, Captain Ricky. Yes, sir. Right here, buddy.
Hey, I saw some good news from Nosara this week. Sounded like the yellowfin tuna showed up a little bit for you.
They did. You know, we always catch them. It's whether we get the real big ones or not. And they seem to have vanished for about 2 weeks, but they showed back up this last week, the last few days. So that's a good sign.
How about billfish? Tell me about billfish.
Well, you see that big 350-pound marlin we caught?
That's a good one.
You know who the angler was on that? Was Bodie Miller.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah. He fished with us twice last week.
I'll be darned. That's cool. That's cool.
Yeah.
Now,
it's always nice to have somebody like that, but,
Now, he's not still competing, is he?
I don't think so. I think that last Olympic few years ago, I think he kind of had some issues there. But whatever, he's a good client for us.
Yeah.
Happy camper.
Yeah, good deal. All right, how many sailfish do you have this week, do you know?
I don't have an accurate count on Ricky, but we had several days where we're getting close to the double digits, which is good this time of year still. No complaints on the client, that's for sure.
That's real good. Hey, I got a quick question for you. You ready?
Yep.
What is your greatest accomplishment on a rod and reel? You've battled some monsters.
I would say I got a 67-inch yellowfin on a top water on the center.
That's good.
But the thing about it, I got the fish into the boat in 21 minutes.
That's real good.
I thought that was pretty good. But, of course, the secret was when he hit the top water, it wedged sideways in his mouth and he drowned. But let's don't tell anybody that.
We caught 109-pound yellowfin that took about 20 yards of drag because he had a Magnum Rapala sideways in his mouth. He couldn't go anywhere.
What mine was a Yuzuri, top water chugger, but the fish hit about 15 feet outside the boat, and it was just cool. It really was. I saw him strike, and those long battles on those big yellowfins will make the meat kind of bad and a little bit kind of a tannic smell and taste to them. And this one came in so fast, the meat was just gorgeous. I mean, absolutely beautiful.
Oh, that's cool. That's cool. I don't know if you remember or not, but you know the greatest angling achievement I ever witnessed, don't you?
What's that?
How about my little brother catching a 93-pound tarpon in 27 minutes. Oh, yeah, there's one more little thing that makes it interesting. He has He has no use of his arms or legs. He fought it with the reel handle in his teeth.
That's an accomplishment. That was going to be hard to top by anybody.
Yep.
Anybody.
Yep.
For sure, man.
So blessed. And Craigie, the worst part is the first one, we didn't know what we were doing. The first one that he ever got hooked up, I had him on regular trolling tackle, regular 20-pound class trolling tackle, not those big, long 9-foot hurricane rods that we learned we got so much leverage with. And Craigie, he cranked on that fish until about 10:30 at night. And the fish was dead. We had fought him all afternoon. The fish was dead. My brother's mouth was bleeding. So what we started doing was we'd drag him up with the boat till we could see him in the lights, and then I'd back up while the fish sank. You with me? Because he just couldn't put any pressure on it anymore, which worked real good until I backed over the line and cut it. That was a long ride home.
Might want to tell him about that. Might want to leave that part out of the story.
Ought to leave that part out of the story. Yeah, I should. Hey, buddy, I appreciate it so much, Craigie. Please tell me we can check with you next week.
Absolutely. Be looking forward to it.
You got it. Craig Sutton from Nosara Paradise Fishing. Now, let's hit Florida. We'll start up in the northeast corner with our buddy David Voorhees. Captain Voorhees, how we doing?
Hey, I'm doing fine. Can't beat that report, but I tell you what, the fishing has been pretty good this week on the inshore scene, Rick. You know, we got a little shot of cold water came in this week, and I tell you what, I was sort of worried about it, but after fishing today, it has really fired these fish up. Last 2 days, these fish have actually been going crazy. Plenty of redfish, plenty of trout, and actually some good flounder this week. But all in all, you know, the weather, I was sort of worried about it, but it wasn't that bad. There was a couple of days kept us off the water with the wind, but Rick, I was really, this water temperature got all the way down to about 69 today. I saw it at 71, and the fish were fighting like, man, you wouldn't believe it. I mean, they were really fighting good. A lot of the fish we got today came out of deep water today and yesterday. A lot of deep water fish. We did fish some of the shallow waters, but right off the bat, I just could not get a bite out of some of these fish. They were swimming over our bait. So I left the shallow waters, went right to the deep water, and there was no problem with getting those fish to bite.
Good deal. Good deal. I gave somebody your name today. You'll hear from them. They want to learn how to deep water jig because they're so tired of running up creeks just as 3 boats come running out that have already fished it. I tell you, I think you've got quite a system nailed down to do that with. David, there was a
Rick, I got to say something first before it slips my mind. You know, last week we were talking about the fish poop.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Well, guess what?
It changed
Today,
color.
The ladyfish it's pink.
Okay.
And the roseate spoonbills are just absolutely everywhere. What does that tell you, Rick?
Tells you the shrimp are here, David.
The shrimp are here, and I'm telling you what, these fish they were eating those shrimp like it was candy today. I bet you we had close to 25, 30 reds today.
Woo!
And, yeah. I mean, at one point on the very last part of that outgoing tide, it was a fish on every cast.
That's sweet. David, first thing this morning, there was an 18-inch flounder laying under my dock. He thought he was going to live forever. He was incorrect.
And I bet he's going to dinner. You invited him to dinner tonight?
He was incorrect. He did not live forever. But, yeah, buddy, I tell you what, I love this time of year. The problem with this time of year is you want to fish about 27 different places at once. I mean, you every day seems like there's somewhere that we want to go. I just wish this wind would back off a little bit. We can get back on the ocean, but that'll happen soon enough, I'm sure. But as always, Cap, we sure do appreciate it. Please tell me we can check with you next week.
You know it, Rick. Looking forward to it also, buddy.
Our thanks to David Borges for a great report from the Northeast section where, my goodness, he said he had close to 30 reds today. That's fantastic. David, of course, specializes in jigging the drop-offs in the intercoastal, something you may want to think about. It takes a little technique. You got to drift with the current while you drop down, but he's gotten really, really good at it. Now let's head down to the East Central section and check in with Jim Ross, who I know's got it going on down there. Jim, how are you?
I'm doing great. Rick, how are you doing?
Doing fine.
Well, this week we've got wind, and more wind, so it's kind of keeping the offshore guys, from getting out. But when the wind lays down, the yellowfin tuna bite is still very strong on the other side of the Gulf Stream. So for those guys that have the bigger boats that can get over there and make that trek, safely, they're doing pretty good. Got some nice reports. Even some fish up into the mid and upper 70-pound range this past week when the guys on the couple days the guys got over there. So pretty strong bite as far as that goes. On this side of the stream, you got a couple of blackfin, some dolphin, a scattered wahoo here and there. Nothing really still, nothing super consistent, but decent. Just some, things going on. And that's always good whenever you're pulling ballyhoo. Inshore, we had a little bit of a lull this week. The bite, it was kind of crazy. One day we had a decent bite, and then the rest of the days were just kind of blah. Just, those lackluster, get a nibble here, get a nibble there kind of days. The one exception to that is the snook fishing in the Edgewater and New Smyrna area right now. That backwater fishing around docks and mangroves, oyster bars, that fishing right now really has turned on. And guys are using fingerling mullet, croakers, small pigfish and pinfish, even large shrimp around the docks, the bridges, and like I said, those mangroves and those oyster structures. And that seems to be the hot bite right now, especially on that incoming tide, which is a little bit of a reverse from what we normally see. Like down in Oak Hill, you normally expect it to be on an outgoing. But for some reason, that incoming tide at New Smyrna this past week has been really good for snook.
Jim, it's been another mild winter. We didn't get a lot of hard freezes, and it looks to me like our snook population will go up again. I know in Jacksonville it clearly has. How much have you seen the snook fishery change in the 25 or so years you've been guiding down there?
Oh, it has gotten considerably better. Just night and day compared to what it used to be, which is good because between them and the black drum, they're keeping us busy. The trout, the redfish, the other things that aren't really all that hot right now, those fish they're taking up that slack. And so that's really, really, it's a great benefit to us. And hopefully with this whole climate change, global warming, whatever you want to call it kind of a thing, hopefully we'll continue to have a good snook fishery for years to come.
I think it's time to accept that the climate is clearly warming. I refuse.
Definitely getting windier.
God, what's up with the wind, man? I tell you what, by now we should be west 10 in the morning and southeast 12 in the afternoon.
It's May. This isn't third month of March, which is what it feels like. Mm-hmm. I mean, with these heavy north and northeast winds, and even switching to east, we should, like you say, it should be a light west in the morning or nothing at all, and then afternoon should be 10 to 15 out of the southeast. Mm-hmm. It should be very predictable, but right now it is it's March all over again.
Yeah, it really is. It's been cooler and been windier certainly, but thank God for inshore fishing anyway. I think next week's different. I'm looking at next week's forecast, Jim, and I think we're going to be back offshore, and I think a lot of those fish that have been on the east side of the Gulf Stream are going to be pushed back over this way.
Let's keep our fingers crossed, Rick.
I'm counting on it, buddy. I'm counting on it. Jim, I appreciate the heck out of it. Please tell me we can talk with you next week.
I am looking forward to it, Rick.
Now we're going to hop on down to Miami and find out what's happening from the mayor of South Beach himself, Captain Alan Sherman. Alan, how are you?
I'm doing fine, Rick. How are you?
I'm doing good. I want to hear about your fishing. How's it going in Miami?
Well, I'm happy to say that we're in the middle of May, but we're having April kind of fishing. This is something we've been looking forward to having, which we haven't had for a whole month. So the fishing out here on the ocean side has been very good. The guys out offshore are catching spring kingfish, anywhere from 10 pounds up to, they're averaging 10 to 15 pounds, and there's some much bigger than that. There's been quite a few big blackfin tunas mixed in with the kingfish, 15 to 30 pounds. And then there's been the bonitas, lots of bonitas, and a few cobias, and a few dolphin as well. On top of that, we've got sailfish in the area. So the guys live bait fishing out there, the guys that are fishing ballyhoo and goggle eyes, big threadfin herring, either free-lined or under a kite. They're catching all of these fish, throughout the day, although the late afternoon has been the best. The guys are fishing much later than they normally would. Usually they'd be off the water by 3:30, 4:30, something like that. Well, now they're trying to push it up until almost dusk.
Goodness.
And the last hour has been some of the best fishing. So, that's when those bigger blackfin tunas are biting. But it's happening out there, so why not take advantage of it?
Alan, I got to tell you, I think it's almost always been that way. I love the trips and in the summertime, you quite often can't do this because of weather, but I love the trips where you leave the dock at 3:00 in the afternoon and come back in at 8.
Right. Well, it's nice when you can do that for sure. And some of these guys are doing 2-3 trips a day. They're doing their half days, and then they're adding a third trip into it, and getting those last few hours in of the day.
Wow.
The fish are really biting well. The remainder of the day early on, they're catching fish. They're just picking at them, and then it's just like, you get to that 4 or 5 o'clock, maybe 6 o'clock, and then it just takes off and almost every bait gets struck. But, this is the way it usually is in April, but it's happening in mid-May. So go figure.
Well, we'll take it, that's for sure. Anything going on inshore?
The inshore fishing's tough. There are some tarpon around the bridges at night, but not a whole lot happening inside. There is some dolphin offshore, though. And the guys, I want to mention that because we just are overrun with sargasso weed to the point where it's really hard to troll any kind of a lure or bait that it isn't weedless. But, if you have some soft plastics, large soft plastics that are rigged weedless, and you drag them through the weeds and around the patches, there are quite a few dolphin being caught this way. And those fish are anywhere from the western wall of the Gulf Stream on out past 1,000 feet of water. So those fisheries are pretty good. The only other, inshore fishing that we have that's been decent is bonefish and permit on the flats. On the incoming tides, that fishery's been pretty good.
All right,
Wow.
Cap, as always, we appreciate the heck out of it. Please tell me we can check with you next week.
Of course. I'm looking forward to it.
Thanks so much, Captain Alan. Captain Alan Sherman. Our thanks to Captain Alan Sherman for a great report from Miami. Now, we're going to Kokomo, going to sit under the tiki hut at Bud and Mary's and have a nice cool drink with our buddy Nick Stanczyk. Nick, how are you?
We're doing good, Rick. How are you?
Good. Tell me about fishing aboard the Broad-Minded.
Well, we managed to get, we got 4 trips in the past week, and then that wind came, but we got swordfish on 3 out of 4 trips, and one big one, 281 pounds. So we're happy with that. And had another one about 173 pounds, so no complaint.
How about that? The 281's a fine one. There's no doubt about that. How are you doing on mahi and blackfin tuna?
The mahi showed up pretty good. A lot of schoolies, not many big ones, but we caught 15 one day just as bycatch or sword fishing. And a lot of boats today fishing. A lot of boats had 20, 30, even 40 fish. So it was good to see. A lot of keepers, not all big ones, obviously, but there was a few gaffers in that 15 to 20 pound range.
Oh, man, that's sweet fishing. That's sweet fishing. Blackfins on the hump, or the sharks leaving you alone?
There's some sharks there, but my one buddy caught some footballs today, but he said the sharks still ate a fair amount of them. I haven't talked to anybody with live bait the last week, so I'm not sure if the bigger ones are around, but on the jigs and artificials, I've been getting the football.
Gotcha. All right, that's not bad fishing. Hey, Nick, let me ask you a question. You come from a long-time fishing family, and you've been blessed with some great mentors, there's no doubt. What is your best accomplishment on a rod and reel?
I caught a big dolphin on a fly rod when I was 16 years old, 51.5 pounds. That took 5 hours. 5 hours
my
and
goodness.
20 minutes. So that was As an angler, that was probably one of my best catches.
Oh my goodness! And see, I was feeling good. We were anchored. I was working on a motor sailor that was a commercial boat when I was a kid, and we were anchored on the edge of the Gulf Stream. Current was flying, and I tossed out a chunk of ballyhoo, and a 52 ate it, and obviously we had to stay on the anchor. It was on an old Fluger medalist, I guess be medalist, a Fluger medalist spinning reel. And believe it or not, the reel held together in one piece, and 2 hours later, we got a gaff in him. So that's probably my best accomplishment. He went under the sailboat and failed to get hung on the rigging, if you can believe that.
That's a good fish. That's a great story.
That was something, I tell you. Well, that's outstanding, Nick. It sounds like you've had a good week, and next week looks to me to be calmer weather than what we've been dealing with. I think better days are ahead, Cap. As always, we appreciate your report.
Thank you, Rick. Appreciate it.
Talk with you next week, Captain Nick. Our thanks to Nick Stanzik for a great Florida Keys report and a 281-pound swordfish. I want to go to Alamorada and fish on the Broad-Minded. There's no doubt. Tell you someplace else I want to fish, 10,000 Islands with Captain Steve Dahl. Captain Steve, how are you?
I'm doing great. Come on down. It's been fun down in the 10K recently. So
yeah,
come on down.
Tell me about your business. Has it come roaring back?
Yeah, it really has. I'll be honest with you, we really haven't skipped a beat, with everything from, dating back to last spring. I mean, there was a little bit of a downturn, but I think the nature of our industry being outdoors and the fishing industry as a whole took a huge upswing, whether it be the fishing tackle industry or charters. I think really were on the rise from everybody that I've talked to. People just needed to get outside. So I think we gained something in the long run, to be honest with you. And it just really has to slow down. I think with everybody just moving to Florida as well, just saying, forget it, I'm leaving up north, I'm going to take up residency in Florida. I think we're going to be a lot more busier year round than we ever have. So that's my take. Man,
I tell you what, it's 1,000 people a day, and it seems like they all want to go fishing. I've never seen the likes of the boats on the water. I can tell you that much.
I believe that's the same here. The phone just does not stop ringing, and we're very seasonal down by us, and kind of an October through Easter type of deal, and it's plowing right through all the way through summer. So it's last 2 years, and again this year. So it's definitely on the rise, that's for sure, which is a good thing.
Yep, I guess it is. What are you catching?
You know what? I got to be honest with you. As good as the backcountry fishing has been with the tarpon and the snook fishing's been, just absolutely fantastic. The offshore fishing has been unreal. The weather is we finally just have some winds that are just somewhat cooperative. And if you can get out there, man, we're just crush them. Big muttons, huge African pompano, some of the biggest African pompano we've seen in a while. And last year was a really good year for those as well. Those have been the two big highlights, these big muttons. And a lot of it is everybody's kind of scouting to kind of see what the red snapper are doing as we approach red snapper season here. And the red snapper we're catching are just huge. And, Rick, we've talked many a time about, are they really that scarce? But the answer is absolutely not, at least down in our part of the Gulf of Mexico. And, they're big and they're plentiful. Easily could, there's, we caught some fishes, past couple days that were, all over 10 pounds, make a limit out of those, and it's, and we're just catching those by accident, to be honest with you, as we're, fishing some mutton spots and mangrove, snapper spots and some grouper spots. But it's, we're seeing red snapper in spots we've never seen them, and a lot closer than we've ever seen them. So I'm of the belief that that needs to be a year-round fishery, and I think you're somewhat in agreement with that, if not adamantly agreed.
Well, I'm in a much different situation than you are, Steve. They have literally taken over the reef system in Northeast Florida to the point to where almost nothing else can live there. I mean, we don't catch grouper anymore. Our sea bass season was poor. The vermilions, I mean, they are an apex predator, and they're just wiping out so many fish. But let me ask you a question. Let's go back to the bad old days, if we can, for a while. Let's go back 25 years. Were you guys catching red snapper at all?
We were, not in the numbers that we were. I mean, the savvy guys, but, those with private numbers and things of that avail, we're certainly catching them. But over the last 20, that's the benchmark too, is that 25-year mark. Over the last 25 years, it has just exponentially gotten better year after year, and probably within the last 5 years, it's just exploded.
Cap, as always, we appreciate it. Please tell me we can talk with you next week.
I can't wait.
Thanks so much. Captain Steve Dahl from down in 10,000 Islands. He's right. A lot of the newer, younger anglers are a lot smarter than we were coming up. There's no doubt. Hey, it's finally getting hot, and of course that means the water is warming up too. And just like great fish always do, the biggest and baddest of so many of the species we fish for will soon be holding in deeper water in an attempt to cool off. You name it. If it feeds deeper in the water column, it can't refuse a DOA terrorize. It dives straight down and crawls across the bottom with an action that no deep feeder can resist. Whether it's a crappie holding under some lily pads or a tarpon rooting around bridge pylons, DOA makes a size and a color terrorize that they just can't say no to. Flashing that big bright eye in front of any bottom-feeding game fish is just unfair. Well, maybe that's why they call DOA lures the unfair advantage. All right, our thanks to Steve Dahl. Time to move on up the southwest coast a little bit and check in with Captain Greg Stamper. Greg, how are you?
I'm doing very well, Rick. How are you?
I'm doing great. Tell me about fishing in the Southwest this week.
All right, so fishing's been good. We have had a lot of chances at juvenile tarpon. We've had a little bit of slower tides, which kind of messes things up a bit because where I fish, tides are important and moving water is a big deal. So things did slow down a little bit, but we did catch some tarpon this week that were 10 to 15 pounds. The guys that were fishing in the back bay did just the same as I did. We caught a lot of little baby snook, a few that were decent in size, and some redfish. It wasn't full speed this week. I can tell you we did have a little twitch of red tide come in. I think that kind of messed things up a bit. I didn't see anything die. There was no dead fish, but it was just kind of a slow week with the tides and everything else. Now, the nearshore guys, Rick, did very well on tarpon. Of course, this is the time of year when the tarpon are here and they're full speed. So if you run around enough and you got the side scan, you got a tower boat, the whole 9 yards, you're going to get into those fish as long as you're using crabs, thread fins. You can use cut baits as well. But really, the offshore guys did the best. The couple times they were able to get out, they crushed these big red grouper and mangrove snappers. They were 3, 4, 5 pounds on average, but there was definitely some big ones in there that were probably 6, 7 pounds. And they're catching all these snappers, Rick, that I don't even know if you know what these are. They're called red snapper.
Yeah, I've heard of those.
But they're everywhere.
I've heard of those. Yeah, and I'm sure that's a different area than you used to fish. That's true. I'm just wondering because it seems to me like not only have redfish taken over, in Northeast Florida, they've completely taken over the reef system. We can't grouper fish. We can't sea bass fish. We can't hardly do anything, to be honest with you, because of the abundance of red snapper. They're like jack crevalles when you're trying to, catch snook or trout. They just seem to come from everywhere. But But 25 years ago, we had crashed it to the point to where it was nothing. And I just wondered if that was a local thing or if that went on all the time, went on just about everywhere. And I think it's gotten better everywhere in the last 25 years, but maybe the fish are kind of in the same places that they used to be, just further offshore than you guys used to fish, right?
Yeah. Back when I was a kid and then when I was a young man, not that I'm that old. Rick, I ain't as old as you.
Nobody's as old as me, so shut up.
but we never got out past maybe 40 miles, which around my neck of the woods, that's only 100 foot. Now, 150, 160, 170 foot, you can get out there these days, and guess what? There's a lot of those red snapper out there. There's sailfish. I mean, I'll give you an example. Sailfish off of Fort Myers Beach. Nobody ever talked about that.
Right.
But nobody ever went 50 miles.
Right. Mm-hmm. Into that current, and that's what they'll find. That's exactly right. But that's fantastic. Hey, I got to ask you a question. All right.
All right.
We've been getting cool stories from so many of our pros this week. Give me your best accomplishment on a rod and reel. You yourself, not one of your customers.
All right. So I can go back to when I was about 15 years old. Okay, Rick?
Okay.
Now, at that age, I grew up in Miami, in South Dade, and I fished Everglades National Park and Homestead Bayfront, and of course, I fished out of Black Point Marina. I mean, Black Point Marina was literally made. They blew apart the entire area with dynamite to make that marina when I was a kid.
Yeah, you can't do that anymore.
Yeah, I know, and it was crazy. But we used to fish out of there. So the worst and the best thing I can ever think about in my life was fishing out in Biscayne Bay. And I want to say exactly where it was because I'm sure it'll piss off a few people down that neck of the woods these days. So we caught, and I was with my buddy Scott, my best friend, on our little action craft that we borrowed from his dad. We were fishing out there. We caught a 38-inch bonefish, which at that time, Rick, I got to be honest, I had no idea about records, sizes, nothing. We were kids. We were having fun out there, and we didn't even know any better because we were taught to just release them. They were fun to catch. And we caught quite a few fish that were probably 10 pounds, 12 pounds, 13 pounds. We were dialed in. We were taught well. And I let a 38-inch one. Man, to this day, I just wish I would have put that thing. I don't know how it would have fit in the live well, but I just wish I would have put that thing in the live well, got back to the dock, had it certified, measured, etc., and then let it go. Because, Rick, it was easily 17, 18. It was huge.
Wait, Greg. We don't have, I mean, we got a pretty good connection, but we don't have a great connection. I almost thought I heard you say a 38-inch bonefish.
Yes, sir, Rick.
Greg, that's a monster.
It was me. I caught it.
That is a monster.
Well, we're talking about, oh gosh, what would that be? 1988.
Wow. Do you have any idea what the length is on the current world record bonefish?
The last time I checked records, it was like 17 pounds, I believe.
Right.
I don't have bonefish here, so I don't even care anymore.
Man.
But this is the fish that I look at every other bonefish and I go, yeah, mine was way bigger than that.
Yeah. And oh, by the way, you always will. Okay, you're not going to see another 38-inch bonefish, I don't think. That is a fantastic story, and good on your teachers. Good on your dad and your mentors that taught you that that fish goes right back in the water.
That would be the two people who taught me the best. That would be Glenn Minot and Jose Wahibi.
How about that? Yeah, you had pretty good teachers. Yep. Greg, as always, we appreciate the heck out of the report. And please tell me we can talk with you next week.
Absolutely. Talk to you later, Rick.
Thanks, Captain Greg Stamper, from Snook Stamp Charters. Now, Greg's report tonight is brought to you with all our action spotters by Yamaha. Reliability starts here. By Shimano, bringing people and nature together. By Tournament Master Chum, the best chum on earth. By Nosara Paradise Rentals, your dream vacation. By DOA Lures, the unfair advantage. And Young Boats, the finest in flat spay and offshore hybrids. You need to check out youngboats.com. Our thanks to Captain Greg Stamper. My goodness, what an accomplishment he had. Hey, William, is a 38-inch bonefish a good one?
I've never caught one before, but I'm going to say yes, a very good one.
Wow, that just sounds like a monster to me. I'll tell you what.
Yeah.
Yep, it's time for us to check in with Captain William Toney. Tell me how things are in Homosassa.
Well, right now, this precise moment, I'm cleaning a nice limit of sea trout and some nice redfish that we caught today. Caught a couple mangrove snapper and some grunts. It's one of the first times that we haven't had a lot of wind over on the Big Bend right now. It's just been windy as all get up. I'm ready for a break.
I tell you what, we all are. This is not supposed to be March. This is supposed to be May. And I've spent way too much time at the dock this month. There's no doubt about it. So how many days have you made in the last 10 days or so?
I would say I've had to go cancel 3 from the wind. You know, here being real shallow and a lot of islands and everything, you can tuck and hide. But when we get an east wind over here on the Big Bend and negative tides, it gets super shallow. So it was like fishing back in February. And when it's colder, you get fish that are pushed up inside the rivers and creeks, so you don't have to go very far, and you could get to sheltered areas. But when you're up here like we are with the warmer temperatures, all our trout and everything are on the outside. So you got to get out there and go find them. And when it's real windy like that, you got to look for lee sides of areas that are blocking that wind, or you got to get your drift bag out and just tough it out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, you guys are blessed up there in the regard that you don't have a solid coast. You've got islands that you can get around and lees that you can find, don't you?
Absolutely. But then again, the only negative drawdown is when that east wind blows, a lot of those little creeks and everything like that, it makes some brand new Florida real estate. It sticks up everywhere.
When we moved down here from Wisconsin, we wanted to buy a house on the river, and the real estate agent was smart enough to only take us there at high tide for about 3 or 4 times we went to the house. I'm going to tell you, the first morning we woke up in that house and the river was dry, my daddy about had a heart attack. I mean, we had, all of a sudden the river was gone, William. We had no idea what tide was.
Absolutely. That's where I fish at today. It's a little creek to get up their house, and I barely got there. In fact, I had to use my push pole to get back down the creek. But, you know, here on the Big Bend, we still got a great trout bite. Been getting them on the Mirror Watermelon Red Flakes or that DOA 5.5-inch glow jerkbait with a 3/0 owner nose hooked. And what I'm looking for is more broken bottom right now, not necessarily just turtle grass. If you see turtle grass, you may catch trout in it, but they're going to be on the small side. So if you want bigger keeper trout, you need to look for more of that broken bottom.
Hold on now. You were talking about the DOA, the jerkbait, and you said the nose hook. Are you not threading it through and then sticking it back in and all that? Are you just nose hooking it?
Just nose hooking it. It's something we've been using in this area for quite some time. I had a good buddy of mine had a tackle shop, and we were sitting around having a powwow one day and talking about how clients were missing a lot of nice fish by, weedless rigging the bait, not being used to letting them ball it up in their mouth or setting it and missing the trout. So what we started doing was taking a 3/0 owner and putting it about 1/4 of an inch from the nose of the glow jerkbait or any color jerkbait that you like, and that creates one pivot point. So when you tie your leader to the eye of that hook, use a loop knot. So now you got another pivot point. You just create this really good action on that jerkbait. And the reason why I like the DOAs so much is they're a denser plastic, and you can cast them a lot further. And a lot of times you want it just about 6 to 8 inches below the surface. And that bait works really well for trout here and snook. Caught a lot of redfish with them and basically anything else. But as soon as you feel that strike, you got that exposed hook. You can set it and you're going to catch that fish.
Well, you know what a lot of people don't realize, and when I do classes, I teach this all the time. I'll let you get back to cleaning fish after this, but I will give you $1 for every dolphin, every tuna, every sailfish, which you can never prove it was sailfish, but any fish that doesn't swallow their bait head first. Think about it, William. A trout has to swallow his bait head first.
Absolutely.
So you know
that was just going to say, that's why there's eyes on jig heads and eyes on plugs.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it gives them a target to go for.
Right. They can't swallow a bait backwards. It doesn't fit down their throat that way. It's got to go head first. So using that nose hook, don't worry about the fact you don't have a hook back in the tail. That tail's the last thing that goes into his mouth, not the first.
Yeah, absolutely.
Cap, as always, we appreciate it so much. I'm going to let you get back to cleaning your fish, and we're going to talk with you next week if that's okay.
Yep, I'll be right down here on Little Battle Creek Fish Camp, which is located right downtown Homosassa.
I've been there. I love it. Thank you, Cap. We'll talk with you next week.
All right, bud.
Take care. Well, we've survived winter, and my favorite time of year is here if we get the wind to lay down. But that means it's time to put away the high-speed Wahoo gear and break out some of the tackle that can put the fun back in blue water fishing. Listen, we all dream about the days when a blue marlin crashes our spread, but let's talk some facts here. Almost all the marlin we see here in Florida are under 300 pounds, and we just don't see 50-pound dolphin like we used to. So why not stop by either one of the strike zones and check out the new Talicas and Speedmasters designed to put the fun back in blue water fishing? What makes Shimano and Strike Zone the only team you need to know? That's because while you're buying your new weapons, the staff at Strike Zone can splice 500 yards of braid backing on your new reels just to make sure there's nobody in the blue water neighborhood that you can't handle. So stop by Strike Zone and just feel the way to the new Talavera rods matched with Speedmaster or Talica reels. You'll see in a hurry that it's time to put the fun back in Florida blue water trolling. Now let's pull up into the West Central and find out what's happening with Ray Markham. Raymond, are you with us?
Yes, sir, I am. I'm sitting in front of a tackle shop down in South St. Pete here, just kind of rejuvenating the tackle box. So.
You know, Ray, you'll be shocked to learn this, but at my advanced stage, I've figured out that I don't know anything about women. Okay, I mean, there is no way that for a woman going into a clothing store, that can't be as much fun as it is for us to go in a tackle shop, can it?
Well, that's a hard question to answer.
I mean, come on.
You know, my rationale is that because I fish artificial lures, I've got every size, every action, and everything else. These things. So I got to have certain rods for certain lures.
Yep. All that makes sense.
Now, I understand women only got 2 feet, but, you know, they got a green dress and a blue dress and pumps and Jamaica shorts and all this other kind of stuff. And so they got to have everything matching or whatever. I don't know.
Ray, I don't get it. Honey, you've got a pair of black shoes. No, we don't need to go to the shoe store, okay? You got black, you got brown, you got white. We're done, all right? I don't get it. You know, every time I say something about her shoe closet, she says, "Oh, why don't we go out in your tackle closet?" And I'm like, "Okay, never mind, forget it." But
sacrifice in my old age here, give it up.
Yeah, you're right. You're exactly right. How's your fishing been this week?
It's been pretty good. I mean, it was a little breezy today, and it's going to continue getting a little more breezy throughout most of the rest of the week. So I'm looking forward to the time that they say it's going to be under 20. So, but other than that, I mean, the snook fishing has really been off the charts. They've got, we're catching plenty of trout that were in the 18 to 20 inch range, which is really good since the new rules that will be taking in effect coming up here in June 1st will only allow one fish over 19 inches. And redfish have been a little sparse. At least they have been for me. Guys that are fishing with me recently are just basically they want to catch whatever bites. And so, you know, we're trout fishing, we're catching Spanish mackerel, catching a few flounder now and then, not that many, but a pompano now and then. but black sea bass and that kind of thing. So there's a good mix of a lot of different things going on, and we've been catching some big jacks. We've been catching a lot of sharks, black tips, bonnet heads. We've seen a few really big sharks, a few hammerheads. We have not been doing a lot of tarpon fishing, although we've got some trips coming up here in the next week or so. The sharks, if you're fishing for tarpon, you're also fishing for sharks. So,
whether you want to or not. Yep.
Whether you want to or not, yeah, because they like those big old herring too. So, but that's pretty much what's going on. The guys that are fishing, offshore, they're still catching Spanish mackerel and kingfish. Water's warming up quite a bit, so things are moving a little bit deeper. The guys that were catching hogfish a couple of months ago, the hogfish action has really slowed down inshore or near shore, and it's moving back out to the 80 to 100 foot mark to really have any kind of consistency going. Plenty of red grouper. If they get out beyond 100, 120 feet, there's occasionally some snowy grouper, and we got another couple of weeks or so before the 1st of June rolls around and gag grouper season reopens. So everybody's chafing at the bit, and I'm, going in these tackle shops, and everybody's getting spooled up with some new line for their grouper gear and everything. So looks like things are looking up. So
now are gag grouper and red snapper both opening on June 1st for you guys?
Yes.
Oh wow. Yeah.
Recreation. So it's going to be Katie bar the door. If you have a trip planned, you better find a ramp that nobody knows about.
Yes, sir. I understand that. They've now got live cameras at all the ramps in Jacksonville. So when you get ready to go fishing, you better check and see who's got a parking spot.
I'll tell you what, yeah, well, parking spot's one thing, but I would want to have that feed going right into my house so I can sit at home with a 6-pack of beer and just enjoy the show.
Yeah, that's a lot of fun to watch. Yep, we've all seen some antics at the boat ramp. There's no doubt about that. I watched a guy one time with his brand new 23-foot boat just walk, yeah. and the funny thing was the expression on his face when he realized what he'd done. He backed it down the ramp like a champ. Everything's good. He walks to the back of the truck, lifts up the trailer hitch, and unhooks it, and just watches it go in the water, trailer and all.
Well, I've seen trucks and everything go in. So. This is way better than any reality show on TV.
It is. The look on his face was like, oh, no, I wasn't supposed to do that. Raymond, thank you as always. Please tell me we can check with you next week.
You bet, buddy.
Our thanks to William Toney for a great Homosassa Big Bend area. Now let's move into the northwest section of the state and check in with Captain Kevin Lanier, who is counting the days till snapper season. How we doing, Cap?
Amen, brother. I am counting the days. You would not believe the week we've had with big red snapper, and I'm thinking, why is it just May 1st and not June 1st for the first week?
Yep. I understand, but they're still going to be there. They'll still be right there when you get ready. Hey, let me ask you a question. I've asked a few guys this evening. Is there any? Okay. There is no comparison to the numbers of red snapper you've got now versus what you had 25 years ago, is there?
No, sir. That's what I've heard is we've got just a tremendous amount more.
Right. I think that's everywhere. They never used to catch a lot of red snapper in Miami and in 10,000 Islands and all those crazy places, but now they seem to be every inch of the coast of Florida.
Well, I mean, they're a fast breeding fish. It's just like anything else. They lay a lot of eggs, and we got a lot of fish. And I don't think we figured out a scientific way to count them because we certainly don't have a door for them to walk through.
Right. We sure don't, and we've got a lot of improvements to make in how we harvest them. You and I have talked about it so many times. I'd love to see a year-round fishery, one per person, and if you want to make it tighter than that, I would be in favor of a slot. And let's leave the big sows alone, and let everybody limit on their slot fish and go do something else. But there's got to be better things to do than what we're doing right now.
Oh, absolutely. If we could get politics out of the fishing and just do fishing for the fish, then we'd be great.
Yep. Nope, you're dead on. So what are you seeing offshore?
We're seeing a lot of red snapper, and I hate to sound like the same song, second verse, but we released a 20-pounder this week. It's been amazing. Triggerfish are good. We're getting a couple of keeper red grouper now and then. We're turning back some big gags. So fishing's been really good. Even the vermilions have picked back up again after slowing down on it.
Good. That's very good. Very good. Now, do you get many mangrove snapper where you are?
Well, we call them, I call them Mongo mangroves because usually up here they're going to be 8 to 15 pounds.
All right. That's the same thing we see on the East Coast. It must be this latitude that we're on. You and I are on a similar latitude. Down south, they brag about, I got a 6-pound mangrove. And I'm like, really? But let me ask you something. How big a fan are you of eating those 15-pound mangroves?
Well, normally I don't get to eat them because I send them home with people.
Right, right.
But, that's my problem with most of the fish around here. I wave at them as they leave the dock. My thing about it is, Captain Rick, if I can get a 18 to 20-inch red snapper, an 18-inch mangrove, if I can get some of those medium-sized fish, I'd prefer to eat them.
Yes, sirree. I tell you what, I made the mistake one time. I caught a 77-pound cobia, and I decided to give some to all my friends. I don't ever hear from those people anymore. I don't know what happened to them, but they don't talk to me. Every time I see them, they treat me like I've got leprosy or something. I don't know what's up with that.
I gotcha.
But the big old fish certainly don't taste as good as the younger ones do. That's for sure. You heard anything from inshore?
Inshore's been slow all the way from our area over into Panama City. We've talked to a couple of inshore guides, and it seems to be, super slow. We're getting some trout now and then, a couple of redfish. Flounder have been good in the canal in the Bay Area where we're at, but there's nothing to write home about. I would not make a trip here right now for inshore fishing.
Aha. Well, see, that tells us what we need to know. That tells us, is the water warmed up too fast, or do we know what's going on, or it's just not happening?
It's just not happening. It's hard to tell. The water clarity is fantastic right now, even after all the spring rain we got. But it seems just to be they're not here. You don't see any of the big trout pictures right now. You don't see any of the lines of redfish like we normally would see. I don't know what's going on right now.
I got you. Well, one thing for sure, we do know that June 1st, there's going to be some beautiful fish on the dock, and I know a bunch of them are coming from KC's Sport Fishing Adventures. I don't doubt that a bit.
Well, we're going to definitely try our best as we always do.
I know it. Thank you, Captain Kevin, so much. We appreciate it. We'll look forward to hearing from you next week.
All right. We'll talk to you next week.
All right, buddy. Captain Kevin Lanier checking in from the northwest section of the state.
You know what Yamaha Outboards love? The genuine formula and consistency of Yamalube marine engine oils. What? Outboards are subjected to punishing conditions like high loads, salt, and humidity, a mix that automotive oils can't handle. Yamalube full synthetic and marine performance formulas are certified to protect against friction and corrosion for reliable performance every time. Find Yamalube marine oils at your nearest Yamaha Outboard dealer. Locate them at yamahanoutboards.com/dealers. Yamaha, reliability starts here.
Hey, Raj, being consistent is the mark of a quality product. If you've been Florida's #1 chum for over 10 years, there's got to be a reason.
For 10 years, Tournament Master Chum has lived up to its name. That's why more tournament pros insist on Tournament Master than any other chum. It's the only chum with menhaden milk mixed right in. That means it gets the scent out faster and deeper than any other brand of chum. It comes in a grind size for every species from kingfish to catching bait. Your fishing time is way too precious to you second-rate chum. Bring the action to you by insisting on Tournament Master Chum. It's worth every penny.
When you're ready for the finest in custom-made flat spay or inshore-offshore hybrids, you are ready to meet the Young family in Inglis, Florida. For over 21 years, the Young family has built custom boats one at a time for every type of fishing. Nothing can sneak up on a flat quite like the Gulf Shore flats boats, and I've never fished a better hybrid than the Young 24s and 27s. Rob Young is a naval architect who takes tremendous pride in each and every build for each and every customer that wants their boat custom built exactly the way they want it. Is it time for you to move up? Are you ready to own the finest boat built? Then you need to visit the Young Boat facility in Inglis, Florida, or check them out online at youngboats.com. Now, you can't leave Florida till you go out the Panhandle, and that means we need to check in with one Tyler Massey. Tyler, how are you?
We're doing good, Rick. How are you guys?
Doing outstanding, my boy. Tell me about fishing. What's going on offshore?
So it's been pretty good. We've been doing a lot of bottom fishing still. Amberjacks, are in season through the end of the month. We got triggerfish open. Vermilion snappers are biting good. So we've been focusing on the larger wrecks and just fishing for a variety of stuff too. Coming up mangrove snappers as well. So focus on bigger wrecks, and just be prepared to catch all different kinds of stuff out there right now.
Now, you guys open for red snapper on June 1st, right?
Yep, our federally permitted boats are open on June 1st, and then the recreational anglers are a couple days behind on June 4th.
Now, why is that? Why are federally permitted boats sent first? Do you know?
Because why they're first is so a couple years ago they separated federally permitted charter boats in the Gulf out from recreational fishermen. So it's actually like a different sector, just like commercial fishermen would be. So the federal government sets our season separate from the recreational anglers, just as they see fit for the charter boats.
That's interesting. Anything going on inshore?
Yeah. So speckled trout fishing is probably as good as it's been in this year so far. The bigger trout are about to start spawning here in the early summer, and this is we're, like I said, talked about before. We use these big croakers to catch these speckled trout, and that's what's going on right now. A lot of fish in the the 4 pound and up range. There's plenty of ones that are smaller as well, but if you want to get a good speckled trout, now's the time to go out there after them.
Ah, okay. Live croakers. We don't see that much on the East Coast, but do guys fish them under corks? They fish them on fish finder rigs? How are they doing it?
Yeah, so it's a lot of time it's the areas we fish, we free line them. So we're either using just a jig head if we need to get a little deeper down towards the bottom. But a croaker, he does the thing on his own. So if there's not a lot of current or not a lot of wind, he's going to swim where he needs to go to get that bite. So free line is the most popular way.
I see. That makes a lot of sense. It sure does. Well, that's outstanding. It sounds like your fishing's going pretty well. Hey, Tyler, let me ask you a question. What is, not one of your clients now, I want to hear what your greatest accomplishment is on a rod and reel.
So, the greatest accomplishment that I've ever had was, I do fish some, on some billfish tournaments and stuff like that. And on one trip, I just happened to, be an angler, and we hooked into a bluefin tuna that was 634 pounds.
Whoa.
And that was people talk about how strong they are, but man, even compared to a blue marlin of the same size, that bluefin tuna is the strongest fish that I've ever experienced. And that was on a Tiagra 50 or 80 wide, and he could do whatever he wanted, full drag, whatever. And that was definitely a fight. We fought it for a little over 5 hours, probably like 5 hours and 30 minutes is how long we fought that fish for. And I'd say, three quarters of the way, I had 40 pounds of drag, maxed out on the reel and my hands on the spool. So that was definitely, my biggest accomplishment, fighting a fish.
My goodness, I tell you, that's a young man's game right there. What happened to that fish? Did go ahead.
No, so we caught it and killed it and ate it. Gave it to all our friends.
I'll be darned. That must have been quite a party. You had plenty of tuna to give to people.
Oh yeah, we were some a lot of people we hadn't talked to in a while were knocking on the door.
I'd be there if you called me and told me you caught one today. I'd be there tonight. Let me ask you, compare bluefin to yellowfin and blackfin for me, taste wise.
Man, as far as fresh goes, it really was exceptional. The meat was. It's hard to explain. I'd say if you cooked it, you probably can't tell too much of a difference. But eating it raw, fresh, man, it just melts in your mouth. It's really, really good. Well, that's quite a feat. That's a lifetime fish right there. What that is. That's absolutely fantastic. Well, Tyler, as always, we appreciate your report. Please tell me we can check in with you next week. Yep, I'll be here.
You'll be mighty close to that June 1st date by then. Thank you, Tyler.
All right, we'll see you.
Captain Tyler Massey from out in the Panhandle, wrapping up our report for today. Hey, it's been a fun trip around the state. Lots of good stuff happening. Everybody complaining about the wind, but everybody with an eye on the future and looking for better days ahead. I think they're not very far away. Up in the Northeast area, Captain David Borey said this cool water that the Northeaster brought in has really turned the redfish, trout, and flounder on, and that's certainly good news. No boats have been offshore. There are kingfish very close to the beach, but very few boats have been able to get out to them. As you work your way down the state, things are pretty good. The blackfin tuna and the mahi and such were in Jim Ross's area. Said there's plenty of yellowfin tuna over on the other side of the Gulf Stream, but that's quite a long haul. You get down around Miami, well, they're doing okay. Fishing there is fair. It's has not been exceptional, but is bound to get better. Boy, when you hit Alamorada, my goodness, Captain Nick Stancic and the Swordfish, 4 swords this week, up to 281 pounds. That's a fine one. Coming around to the West Coast to juvenile tarpon, I got to tell you, our buddy Greg Stamper's in love with those juvenile tarpon, and they lead his report every week, but there's also plenty of snapper and grouper offshore. Captain Steve Dahl doing very well on all kinds of fish except the redfish. The redfish have slowed down for those guys a little bit. Come on up the coast a ways. Captain Ray Markham said the kingfish are out there when you can get to them. But inshore, it's been a mixed bag. They're doing well on speckled trout. They're catching sea bass. They're catching a lot of stuff. Work your way up through the Gulf, and I tell you, the further west you get, everybody's ready for June 1st to hit the red snapper. There's a ton of them. They're big. They're going to be able to catch their limits and be home in no time. So it's been a fun trip around the state. I know I've certainly enjoyed it, and we hope you have too. If you have, please subscribe to our podcast and tell your friends about it. Maybe they need some help fishing. Now, if you got a question, post it on the Florida Sportsman Facebook page for us, or you can send it to me personally, rick@floridasportsman.com, and we'll make sure we get the action spotter from the area you want to know about to answer the question for you. Can't get better service than that. Hey, tonight's Action Spotter podcast has been brought to you by Yamaha. Reliability starts here. By Shimano, bringing people and nature together. By Tournament Master Chum, it's the best chum on earth. By Nosara Paradise Rentals, your dream vacation. And by DOA Lures, the unfair advantage. And by Young Boats. You want the finest in flat spay and offshore hybrids? You need to check out youngboats.com. Until next week, I'm Captain Rick Riles for Florida Sportsman Magazine, and we will see you on the rip.